Hello, this is Jon Speelman with the video version of my latest column, number 198, what used to be an Agony column and is now just a column, a freelance column where I do whatever takes my fancy. And this one I just called Old and New, and it's a recent game, a very interesting recent game with a lot of calculation in it by Simen Agdestein. Then an old game that's sort of relevant to it because of the slightly similar content. And then I've just got an Endgame, which I happen to be looking at and discovered there were some rather interesting manoeuvres in it. So we'll start. Simen Agdestein, I think he's born in the 1960s. He's about 10 years younger than I am. He's a Norwegian grandmaster, a very good one actually. And he was Magnus Carlsen's teacher when Magnus was somewhere around about 7, 8 or 9 or something. We used to play for, I think it was for Ludvig, we played in the German Bundesliga. We won a couple of times, though our team had a lot of Brits in who didn't speak German properly, which didn't go down very well with them. I can't imagine having a team where, in England, where most of the players couldn't speak English at all would go down that well if they won it. I mean, well, you know, it's what happens, isn't it, in international team competitions. And anyway, Simen used to come to the Bundesliga. There were basically English bods and Scandinavians and a German or two. And he used to say, I've got this kid and I teach him and he is just different. He's in a different league to anybody who I've ever taught before, and that Sproglet, as he then was Magnus himself, who obviously was in a different league from anybody he taught before, unless he taught sort of Kasparov, which he hadn't. So Agdestein comes from a very sporty Norwegian family. I think his brothers used to do middle distance running for Norway, possibly, and he himself was a professional footballer for a bit. I think he scored a goal for Norway probably against the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia as it then was, though I'm not absolutely sure of that. And I believe he trained, I'm not sure if he got a contract or he came and had a trial for Aberdeen. And he said to me, oh well, he liked playing but the training was a bit tedious. So that's a chess playerly attitude to football. And I think it's probably the thing about chess is, well, the thing I find is that it's difficult to be in a proper state to appreciate the board until you're playing. When you're frightened that you're going to lose and you've got your full concentration aimed on those 64 squares, well, for one thing, I know which moves I want to play. I just know what my choices are, and then I just have to decide between them, see if they work. Whereas if I'm just sort of here now, no, I'm not quite like that. Of course, I have a machine now to check my moves, but previously I would have thought, well, maybe I could do that or maybe I could do that. And it's not really how I think about chess. Anyway, so we got Simen's game first, and we'll go into chess space and have a look at it. And it is the game Agdestein against Tor Fredrik Carlsen from the Norwegian Championships, actually, not the league, I think. I hadn't realised, I thought it was the league. And I'll play through it till we get to the critical position. It's an English opening. Obviously there are things that could be done differently around about here. Rook c1. Yeah, knight a4 was actually played in the next game I've got, which is the Botvinnik Portish. And the problem with knight a4 is that knight d5 is a good answer. And so people tend to go rook c1 first nowadays. Knight d5, takes, queen a4, rook e8, shoring up the e-pawn. So we get to this position, and Simen played a very critical move. I've got the clock times for some of these moves, not all of them. I don't like having all the clock times because they interfere with how you look at it. He played queen b5. I think normally rook fe1, rook fd1 or rook c2 are played. They're more common moves. Okay, so queen b5, guy plays a4 after 11 minutes. I haven't actually looked to see what else you could play. You have to be careful about knight takes e5 type things here. I think a4 is okay. Let's have a look at reference. Actually, I'm going to ask the engine. I should have done that earlier, but I haven't, because I'm not that interested in the opening bit. And it says a4 is the best move, actually. Okay, we'll kill the engine and get this back. We'll just ask reference. Bishop f8 is obviously another move if you want to. Okay. And is that playable or not? Or is knight g5 a problem in this position? Well, knight g5, and the game continues. Knight e7 is given here. Okay. So there are other ways to play it, but it's not very important. And I am going to lose the engine again. I should have done that before. I just hadn't bothered really. I mean, if you're looking for the tactical sequence, it's not so important. He played rook at fe1. He took 20 minutes, so he was obviously doing a lot of calculation, working out whether he needed to try to exchange bishops immediately. And black took a long time, 17 minutes, played rook a5. Actually, probably the best move is knight a5, knight e5, c6, queen a4, knight b3, queen f4, bishop f6. It's not apparently is the best move. Knight g4, takes, and now you have to play bishop takes. If you go queen takes queen, there's knight e2 check. So you go bishop takes, queen back, and now my engine wants to play either e4 or bishop f1 to keep the two bishops. Probably right. I mean, you probably do want to. If you go queen takes queen and bishop takes bishop, I guess white has more than enough for the exchange with two pawns in a very, very sound position. And with rook and bishop against two rooks is much better than a bishop against a rook. With a bishop against a rook, often, although you have a bit of material, the king that's with the rook can start advancing. It's hard to do anything. Whereas if you've got another pair of rooks on the board, you're basically as mobile almost. Anyway, he went rook fe1, rook a5, queen b7, and I'm going to put it into replay training now. So the question is, what's black's idea in this position, and how should he try to implement it? And okay, you can see the queen's on b7. She's not very comfortable. So fairly clearly there's going to be an attempt to attack her. You can't play rook a7 because the bishop controls that square, and moves like knight d4, there'll be at least queen c7, or precisely queen c7 actually. So you have to move the queen to either d7 or d6. If you go to d7, then you're pinning your c-pawn, and that allows bishop b6. Rook to there. I mean, if rook b8, you've got this if you want, which is going to be very good indeed. So rook b5 takes, and white's much better. White's got a big advantage here, and apart from anything else, e4 is a threat at this moment. So it's all caving in for black, who's already 2 pawns down. So if we go back, he played queen d6. So black's next move, all things being equal, is going to be rook b8, and that is going to win the exchange to rook takes knight, rook takes queen, bishop takes rook or something. So white needs a move, and you look at this position and you think everything's happening on the white squares in this position. So you need to undermine that knight on c6 before anything bad happens, or to do something. And so I think there are 2 moves you think about. I imagine that Simen, in the run-up to this, he'd worked out that knight d2 was a move, and that he wouldn't lose material if he did that. And that's sufficient to be happy that you're all right. And there's actually another move as well, which you can maybe look for. The thing is, when I play knight d2, well, I can play knight d2, of course, without showing you the other move. Rook to there, and then you play knight c4. So bishop takes knight, there's queen takes knight. The rook on a5 is on prise, so there's sort of things like, if you're at queen d8, there'd be knight takes rook, rook takes queen, knight takes, which would definitely be very bad for black. So you have to take, here. And this position is probably about equal, actually. h5, I don't know if you can go f5 as well at once. Rook takes pawn, rook to there. Check is the only way to avoid losing the material back immediately. King h7, a4. And I looked at this and thought, well, white does have an extra pawn, but actually after f5 is very annoying. Because if you go f3, which is the move you want to play, then bishop b4 is a very strong move. Because when you move the rook, you take an e2 with tempo, and black's crashing his way through on the 7th rank. So in this position, you go something like rook d8 to stop f4, and we end up about equal, I think. By the way, we couldn't go rook b1 because of rook e2, or we'd certainly be dangerous. Maybe play f4 and then go rook b takes e2. Okay, so knight d2 basically is a way to equalise, and Simen thought for a long time and eventually went knight g5. So now you went rook at b8, and now can you see the move that white's prepared in this position? And when I say prepared, you know, they would say in notes, oh, so-and-so has prepared a response to this. But in this case, it's really true that a response has been prepared. And that response is using all the white square themes. It's the beautiful move, knight takes f7, which attacks the queen. And if it gets taken by the king, you bishop takes bishop is check. By the bishop, then you can take on c6. I mean, he should have tried this, I suppose, but he's basically lost. Very bad position. No, I mean, you could try to play a bit, I suppose. On a good day, you might be able to fight a bit. But what he actually did was he went... So if king takes f7, we just play... It's also very bad. King takes f7. New variation, obviously, is a variation. Bishop takes... Let's see which the engine says is best. I'm not even sure. So rook takes. Maybe queen takes, just keep on the a pawn, actually. Queen takes. It's overright. Queen takes. Queen takes. Rook takes. And white's a pawn up. Bishop d6 is the best you can do. Now we can just play bishop c1 if we want. And we've kept 7, actually 7 plays 5, so we're 2 pawns up, excuse me. Need to use my fingers and my toes properly. Knight takes f7. Queen f6 was actually played. Queen takes pawn, and the position's a disaster for black. He played some more moves, but it was all over. Good move, knight g5, just getting the knight out of trouble. Rook to there is a good move. And at this point he's surrendered. Obviously this is completely lost now. You're 2 pawns down and you're probably losing a bit more material unless you're very, very careful. Maybe you can just about play rook a to d6 and avoid losing much more, but clearly it's lost, absolutely. So a good game by Simen. Very interesting game, very tactical, And with this theme of knight to g5 takes f7, I didn't actually look at knight g5, bishop takes g5, did I? So the other move is bishop takes g5, bishop takes d5. You can go queen takes d5, you're much worse, or rook takes d5. If bishop takes, you go check, which is very unfortunate for black. Take, and that's pretty horrible. If you start going here now, and if you went check here, you just lose immediately. So just a bad position. But he could have gone knight d8. It suggests queen to there, takes, and white's much better. Have to take this presumably. Nothing else to do. And takes, and basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plays 6, and much the better pawn structure, and the a pawn is very loose. So basically a winning position for white. Though the game would continue, black would try to play on, but in very, very bad circumstances. I mean, this is definitely plus minus. Let's just do that again. So that was that game. So then this reminded me of an old game by Mikhail Botvinnik. I didn't actually check in the books for notes, but I mean basically it's very similar. Same variation. Except Botvinnik went knight a4, and here knight d5 is an answer. But I mean they were playing in 1965. Takes here, and now he was able to play rook f to c1, which might or might not be better than rook a to c1. Who knows? Rook to there, didn't go queen b5, doubled rooks this time. And it's here that Portish played a move which was both very clever and very stupid. He played the move knight b8. So knight b8 was played, and the question is, what does he intend after rook takes c7? And I mean, obviously he wants to get in c6 and then claim he's got more or less an equal position. But sadly for him, it ain't necessarily true. Well, it's necessarily not true, in fact, in this case. So rook takes that. How does black reply? If knight c6, rook takes pawn, knight d4, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, rook d7 is winning easily as one line. So when bishop c6, now obviously he can give up the exchange and have a decentish game, but which way should he give it up? Actually, he gave it up this way. And what's the move that you look at and hope it works now? You don't know if it does during a game. You're not completely sure, but you know it should be good enough. And that move is bang. So, if you take it, he played h6. There's also, I'll show you, I'll put the notation on again. So there's king takes rook. Actually, the most efficient way to do it is queen checks. Can't go to one of the dark squares because of bishop g5 check, and then this check is actually better than knight g5. Excuse me, I'm about to blow my nose, I apologise. King f7, and now knight g5 check. And this is absolutely devastating. King e7, there's queen e6 mate. King g8, there's queen c4 check. King f6, there's queen checks. King to there, queen checks, king to there, knight to there, checkmate. So I looked at knight g5 first, and I've given lots of analysis, but it's not really very important. Because I originally said, oh well, I think he should have taken it because at least it's slightly complicated. I'll show you the other line. Takes, yeah. Yeah, knight g5 is slightly complicated. Queen to there. Check here, check here, check. And this is more than enough to win, of course. You know. Okay, you're 2 exchanges down, but you're going to win at least 1 exchange. If, for instance, queen b7, check here, knight, bishop d6. I mean, it's just disgusting, this position. Obviously, you're totally and utterly bust. Queen to there, knight to there, queen takes queen. Take here, here is one line. And you'll be unsurprised to, well, it's obvious that white is winning. Completely, utterly and totally. Probably giving checkmate even with the two bishops and the knight. Well, probably not actually, no, but merely going to be about, I wonder how much an engine says. +8, do you think? I'm going to ask Its Majesty. What do you think, a great stockfish? +6.36. Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to know what your fingers and toes were telling us. And okay, so he didn't do that. Rotates, takes. He went h6. There's e4 occurred to me as a move. Well, actually, while I was writing, well, one of the times I've shown this to somebody, h6 was the idea. But actually, the simplest move is rook f5. Pawn takes knight. Check. King to here takes. This is a very clean one. Queen to there. Bishop takes that. Rook takes. Queen takes. So, well, it's the end of the game, isn't it? It's just too much. I don't know. King h8. What do we do? Probably anything we like, really, don't we? King h8. Oh, I don't know. How are we going to win it? Well, oh, we are a whole rook down, aren't we, for what it matters? It obviously doesn't matter at all. So we could move the bishop, maybe, to threaten rook h5 check. That would force g6, wouldn't it? That would do, wouldn't it? So we could go here, for instance. g6. Sorry, not g6, g6. Overwrite. Check. Bishop to there, rook to there or something. Or rook to there first, who cares? Anyway, it's a total and utter catastrophe for black, obviously. So, he actually played h6. Probably not very happily. I assume he took quite a long time to play that move, rook b7. And I said originally when I saw this, white is winning so clearly the rest of the game isn't interesting, which is a little bit disingenuous because the game does continue. He went there, check, guide. If queen e6, I assume, well, I mean, if you wanted to, you could play knight takes this. At which point you have 3 pawns for the exchange and are very likely going to win another one as well. I mean, that would certainly do. Whether he had anything cleverer than that, I wouldn't have thought he would have done. Well, why would you bother? I mean, the guy can resign, clearly. So why would you bother to do better than this? Because, you know, when you have this many pawns for the exchange, again, I'm going to ask Its Majesty what it thinks. I think 3.5 pawns here myself. 5, it says. Okay, thank you, sir. And I thought rook e7 was the best I could see then. Probably I'll play rook b3 and carry on. Don't have to. Anyway, this is not interesting. I mean, you just win. You've got the 2 bishops, which are worth... 2 bishops are worth a lot more than a bishop and a knight. And you've got the knight. I mean, it's ridiculous. So he actually went... sorry, this is the this is the lovely bug that got introduced in the final version of Chess Space 15, which I'm using. Okay, here he could just move his rook, but he played knight h4, which is obviously a nicer move, a nice white squared move. Didn't try queen e6. I guess queen e6 could have been tried. I mean, if you want to. He took the rook, check here, and just went bishop e4. And we have this beautiful position where the white squares, as I said earlier somewhere in the notes, are absolutely not black's friend. So So the threat is knight e7 check and queen g8 mate, and black tried moving the bishop, which is the best he can do. I imagine there are quite a lot of ways to win. You can't win with a smothered mate because the queen is on b7, so you can't go knight f8, sorry, knight e7, queen g8, and then something where you end up with a smothered mate. Maybe you can't do it. But anyway, after check, he had to go g6. I'm sure bishop takes here. Obviously, bishop takes rook would have won. Bishop takes knight, I don't know, queen e6, and black's utterly busted. But he played a nice move, but when he kind of dark square actually, bishop takes h6 check, and that was the end of the game. Because if king takes bishop, check here, queen takes. Well, knight, you might as well go knight g4 check first, and then queen takes queen in a moment. And actually, this is a pretty mating pattern. And there's another one: king f6, queen to there, check, king to there, bishop to there, check, king to there, bishop to there, check, king to there, bishop to there, check, king to there, queen checks. I mean, I'm probably taking 2 or 3 more moves than I should do. And there are engines that would complain about my weak play, but frankly, this will do. Right, so this is another beautiful game, another beautiful white square game. So the other thing I've got is I've got Carlsen, of course, had this amazing day. I'm writing on the Saturday, so I'm broadcasting, doing this video. I wrote a couple of days earlier. So, yesterday actually. So a week ago today, Carlsen got 9 out of 9 against the world's best players at Blitz, including, of course, Firouzja, who's rated even more than him at Blitz. The 3 best Blitz players in the world, according to the rating list, are Firouzja, Carlsen and Nakamura. Not a big surprise, I think. And then some of the other bods. We can see, actually. Let's just have a look while we're at it. I don't know if you know that... when you go to live chess ratings, is it going to load? Yeah, thank you very much. You can, if you go to Blitz, you have different tabs for different lists, and there is the list. Carlsen won 30 points with his 15 out of 18 at the Blitz tournament in Zagreb, and Firouzja, Carlsen, Nakamura, and then Caruana had a bad Blitz tournament, lost 19 points. So basically, these are the men. Firouzja are the boys. Firouzja, Carlsen and Nakamura. They're rated a lot more than everybody else at Blitz. Anyway, Carlsen had this day, and I had to choose a game. I have a column, apart from this column, this fortnightly column, my other column is a weekly column in the English newspaper The Observer, a nice liberal Sunday paper, and I wrote about Magnus, of course, and used the word Fischer-esque as I did in this column. Said how extraordinarily extraordinary it was, and it was, it was an outlier. Clearly he wouldn't normally expect to get anything like 9 out of 9, and the next day he got 6 out of 9 against the same bods. But during that I was choosing some games to put in the paper. I didn't have a lot of room because I was expatiating about what Magnus had done. And in the end, I chose his game with Nepo. And I was... I've actually chosen the one which starts here. I thought I meant to choose the one which has the preceding moves, which now has that in as well. So I'm actually going to do that now. This is in Zagreb, Superbet Zagreb. This is Carlsen, and it's Carlsen against Nepo. Same game with the same notes, actually with better notes now, because I actually picked it up from an Endgame database and put it in there, and I should have picked it up. And I'm going to, this is the one from move 1. This, I hope this has the right move order. Yep, this is the better one. Apologies, right, so we'll just eliminate that as well. and we'll reload. And there we are. So the game doesn't matter that much. I mean, Carlsen's playing wonderfully. He played knight c3 here. Interesting. What's the guy? Alonso. There's a guy in the foreign cell who played knight c3 against me. Very, very, very good blitz player actually as well. He happens to be. Anyway, they played their moves. Alfonso. Sorry. Okay, they played all these moves and they got to this position where Magnus has won a pawn and off he went. h5 is obviously a good move, stopping the king getting to the white squares. And okay, they're playing all this stuff. Probably could have done better, I'm imagining. Okay, so they got to this position, which is where we start. Rook b1 is obviously the right move. Maybe it isn't actually, but it's the move you play. And what actually happened? We'll first do what happened. So he went knight a3. Obviously you can't take an e3, it's clear, isn't it? Going to lose the rook ending. What actually happened was this. And at this stage there was not much to be said, because you are losing the house, the garden and everything else. So he resigned. I don't know if he could have tried at least to play king g6 here. I don't know if you'd have had any real chance. Let's just try king g6. I assume he wants to go rook e5, does he? King g6, let me just ask. And I assume, there is just bishop d2 to hold everybody. If rook e5 wins, we want to do it. Rook e5, knights. Okay, rook e5. Rook takes this is the best you can do. Rook takes check, king to here. Rook checks, king to here. And do we just bishop checks, king d5, and then we start pushing, do we? Okay, that'll do. Okay, that's not, but what actually happened was quite amusing. Rook checks, so you went rook checks e5, I suppose. Do we want to make it dubious even? Shall we make that dubious? And rook c6, and its mate next, rook b2, king g3. And it is mate next move, so he resigned. And I mean, you know, it doesn't matter, you could fight king to there, and it was mate next move. So the interesting line though, which I was really interested in, is up here, where we go rook b1, knight takes bishop, check, pawn takes. So the obvious line is rook takes pawn, but that really doesn't help very much. I mean, this is what, when I was watching, I was just thinking, oh well, this is lost, obviously. You might as well try that, but after this, it's just gone. But you don't play knight e3 check, you play you play king g5, so you can't play king g3 because of rook takes pawn check. b5, king takes pawn, b6, rook d8. You can go rook checks, king g1, rook d8, but it comes to exactly the same thing. Doesn't make a jot's difference. Same position. Okay, and this is where I've got the annotations. b7, rook to there, king f2. And interestingly, I'm going to play e5. You don't have to play e5. King to there, king to there. So you're threatened to bring your king back to get to the b pawn, and you play rook b6. So here, I'm going to put this in replay training for a minute because it's really quite interesting. So the question is, and I better kill my engine as well, because the engine, of course, is telling you what to do. Rotation, replay training. Black to play. What should he do? Should he go to g4 or g5? There's the only two moves to be considered. And it's not easy, but if you think about it, after king g4, king d2, there's a problem. If rook checks, king c3, rook back, king c4, king f3, rook b3, you've got your king up the board, and that's going to be winning. If you start walking backwards, then that also isn't going to help. So actually, king g4 versus king d2 might be Zugzwang. Well, you don't know. You know that black loses anyway. Black to play loses, because either he comes up the board when he got rook f6 check, or you have time to or you have time to get your king to c4. So actually you have to go king g5 here. I mean, let's just do this. King g4, king d2, king g3. Now we can check. And check again and go here. And we'll do a couple more moves, shall we? King to there, king to there, king to there, rook somewhere here or something. King to there, king to there, king to there, king to there, end. Or king to here, new variation, king to there, king to there. And we could even do this if we wanted to. Do this move actually. Completely hopeless. So we have to go to g5 first, to its slams. Now if king d2 we play king g4. It's best to go king d1. Now we can't go king g4 because of king d2, so we actually have to go king h4, which is the only move. He goes king c2, threatened to go king c3, c4, and again we have to go king g3, which is only move. King d2, and now we go king g4. And those are all only moves. The four moves, king g5, king h4, king g3, king g4, are all only moves. And now it's not so difficult. King e2, so rook g6 check here, rook to there, king, 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 take, 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 king, king, take here. Of course, if king takes e4, king to there. So take, king d7, take, king e6 equals. Just saving the draw by a move. The other thing you can do is to fiddle around. Again, we've got to do all this stuff. So that's basically it. We go to here, this position, and it happens that the only way to draw is to go, we start here, sorry, in this diagram. I have to go king g5. What happened was I was analysing this with Stockfish, and I was thinking, why are these the right moves? And after a while, I got to this position, king g4 against king d2, and I thought, could that be Zugzwang? It clicked that it might be Zugzwang. So I asked it, Sublime Majesty, and it went ping and said, yes, comrade, that's Zugzwang. And so then I knew that I had to have a look at it and work it out. My first attempt was just king d2, king g4, and then later I realised that you could have a lot more fun with king d1, king to there, king to there, king to there, king to there, king to there. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that was interesting. Those are recent, so they're actually new and old rather than old and new, or they're new, old, new. So, my next column will presumably be in a fortnight, no, it'll be in 3 weeks, won't it? It will be on August the something. So this is coming out on the 16th, the 30th, and the next one will be on the 6th of August. So, have fun, lots of nice chess going on at the moment, and I'll see you then. And we'll check we're recording, and yes we are, isn't that nice?